Hey everybody, it's me Andy from the Commander's Brew. You know us, we're brewing all kinds of funny and fun, weird decks and having a laugh doing it. Well, this week it's our Alibou Ancient Witness deck from the C21 Commander product. Boros, artifact, creatures. It's actually a kind of a fun new spin on Boros. I love it, so let's check it out. All right, here we go. It's Alibou Ancient Witness from the Lorehold Commander deck. I was looking at the various commanders from the new precons, and I was drawn towards the Simic ones, honestly, at first, but they kind of have those specific ones were doing something I think we kind of have done a little bit kind of recently on the show. So I was just looking around, seeing what else. And I'll tell you what, the old Alibou Ancient Witness really caught my eye. I think I've got a bit of a hankering for Boros lately. I don't know why. I love what they're doing with Boros. They're giving us some new tools, some new features in Boros, and I'm really into it. So let's talk about it here. So Alibou is a cool little card. It's actually a legendary artifact creature. So it's it's an artifact commander, which like an actual artifact commander. She's 3 red white for 4/5 golem. Other artifact creatures you control have haste.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control attack, Alibou Ancient Witness deals X damage to any target, and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control.
Ooh, that could get ugly.
This can get really big, and we can do a lot of stuff with this. To be noted, just right away, you don't have to attack with everything. If let's say you had a bunch of artifact creatures, you can attack with one, and then if you have some way to tap everything, there you go, right? That works. You don't have to attack with the things that are tapped necessarily. Obviously, that's a quick and easy way to get them to be tapped, so that they can be there for that when the trigger happens. But I think it's pretty obvious what this card is looking to get us to do. Let's see if we could figure out anything else to do with it and how best to make this work. So yeah, let's start talking about. Obviously, we're talking about artifact creatures in this deck because that's what it cares about. So let's start talking about setting this scene up. When you're talking about artifacts, when you're talking about tokens, one of the biggest things you worry about in anything where you're putting a bunch of creatures on the battlefield is board wipes. So we've got just a Commander's Brew Classic here in Rootborn Defenses. 2 and a white for the instant that says populate, but then creatures you control gain indestructible. We love this card. It's great. We're always going to want this card. It has some additional uses in this deck, as you'll see. But this is just a nice little staple kind of card for us, I know. This next one, Sean, is the same thing. I mean, it's a similar card that does a similar thing.
Bit pricier because of its impact in card. It says modern, but it's Boros Charm, red white. You can make all your permanents indestructible at the end of turn. You also have 2 other modes. You can also do 4 damage to a player or planeswalker, or you can give a creature double strike until end of turn. I mostly use Boros Charm to make all my stuff indestructible, but sometimes I give something double strike. It also doesn't have to be one of your creatures. It's a rare move, but I love giving an opponent's commander double strike to what was just a lot of damage into an elimination.
It's tough to use your Boros Charm for that. I know exactly what you mean, but I feel like you rarely see that unless it's okay, this guy's going to take out a troublesome player who's commander's been going off all game and we're going to die from it. Outside of that situation, I feel like it'd be tough to use your Boros Charm for that. You feel like you want to save it for yourself, but it's a fair move all the way. So I mentioned we're going to be leaning into tokens with this deck. I think that just makes a lot of sense. And some of the ways we're going to do it, pretty standard stuff, but just in case you're not familiar with an artifact creature style of token, which there are many, by the way, the kinds of ones we're going to be using here, we're all over the place. We're not sticking to one tribe here. So if you got them in a good way, we'll take them. One of the best ways actually is Mirrorsmith, 1 and a white. It's a human artificer. It's a 2/1. but it says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you can pay 1 generic, and if you do, you create a 1/1 mirror artifact creature token. It's great because we're casting all kinds of artifacts. Our mana rocks are up for this. It's great. So pay that 1 as often as you can because you want these creatures on the board. Pia and Kieran Nalar, another great one here. 2 red for the legendary human artificer. Again, 2/2. When they enter the battlefield, you create 2 Thopters. So they're the ones with flying. And then you can pay 2 in a red to sack an artifact, and Pia and Kieran deal 2 damage to any target. That can be relevant, absolutely. But really, we're here for the ETB trigger for the 2 1/1s. And then we also have, that's it. I was going to read another one, but now I'm not going to. Okay, so actually, that's the base. Those are the kind of vegetables, that's the kind of setup you're going to want. But let's start talking about the exciting stuff. Let's start talking about the net mavs.
Working on a
Meat. We're just going to take a second to handle a little bit of business. And the main point is, thanks for watching. If you want to see more of our comedic takes and offbeat decks, consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that bell to make sure you don't miss anything. And if you're loving our stuff and want to support further, the best way is to head over to patreon.com/commandersbrew. Find out how our generous patrons keep our show growing and how you can get in on the brewing action too through our Discord. Or, if you'd rather, just hang out and play some games with like-minded Commander players. Now, let's get back to those Anytime moves.
Okay. Starting off this first neat move, we just saw some of the something like Pia and Kieran Nalar. There's a couple creatures in this deck like that. So, Sean, why don't you read us the first few here, and we can see the impact pretty easily here.
Mirror March. 5 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip. For each flip that you won, create a token that's a copy. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. This card's so fun. It can whiff, but you can also make 7 copies of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And
then there's the more fair and manageable version, Flame Shadow Conjuring, 3 and a red for an enchantment. When a non-token enters, you can pay a red, and if you do, make 1 copy with haste that you're going to exile at the beginning of the next end step. You only get 1, but it's guaranteed. You just got to pay a red for it.
I carry 1 copy.
One copy of a huge creature.
Because obviously Mirror Match will give us at least 2 every time.
I'm expecting 4 minimum off of Mirror Match.
Yeah. It's so funny because if Mirror Match was costed the same as Flame Shadow Conjuring, that wouldn't have been broken, right? It's costed.
Yeah, I don't think it's broken at 4.
No, I don't think either. Even 5 would have been, I think, reasonable for this card, but it's at 6, which is a lot. But
I hate 6.
I hate 6. I know, me too. But either way, you know what? They're just really. It's still such a fun card because that rare turn where it does go nuts. And Flame Shadow Conjuring is just the one where we can guarantee, but really good with our ETB things that come in and make Thopters, servos, what's the other kind? Constructs, whatever it is that it's making. Yeah, exactly. We're going to be happy getting one of these on the battlefield. There's also another one in there that does kind of a similar thing.
Ooh, Mimic Vat. It's a 3 mana artifact. You got to imprint, so put something under the vat. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you can exile it, but everyone puts it under the Mimic Vat to show you it's been exiled by Mimic Vat. And whenever you do that, if there's already something exiled under Mimic Vat, that goes back in its owner's graveyard. So there's only ever one thing there, and it just keeps rotating as you put new things. It's a may, though. Whenever something dies, you may put something under. So you don't have to boot out the old thing if it's great. But here's what you do. You pay 3 and you tap Mimic Vat. You create a token that's a copy of that exiled card. It gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. This is one of those Mirror March type of things. You just get to do it at instant speed whenever you want.
Yep, absolutely. And Mimic Vat is one of those cards that never lives very long on the battlefield because it is, right? It is so good. If our Pia and Kira Nalar were to die, we put them under the Mimic Vat, we'd be able to pay 3 generic and tap this thing and make, new copies every go around or whatever. So obviously it's quite strong and usually doesn't live super long. But I'll tell you what, if you can get 1 or 2 activations out of Mimic Vat, you're pretty happy about it. So obviously a nice card to include here. That's to say we're trying to, get our board full of tokens. And once we do have that, we've got some neat moves involving a little card that I love and I think is very underrated in Commander. It's Inspiring Statuary. It's a 3 mana for an artifact that says non-artifact spells you cast have improvise, and that's it. So think about it this way. I always put it this way. This is a 3 mana rock for any non-artifact spell in your deck, because this can just tap itself. If you had no other artifacts in the deck, the base for this card is to tap for 1 mana to cast a spell, a 1 colorless mana. That's pretty not great, right? Like that's not amazing, but like if that's
it's not amazing,
but that's the floor of the card. The ceiling is that you cast X spells and tap all of your Mirror and Thopters as mana, right?
Yeah.
It's wild, right? So yes, we have a fair amount of artifacts in this deck, but we also have a lot of other things. We have tons of just non-artifact creatures that we're going to be able to power out with our Inspiring Statuary. This often is one of the best cards in a deck that involves artifact creatures as tokens, right? So this is a great card, really good card.
The thing I love about Inspiring Statuary is that more and more decks, I'm noticing, maybe that's just a bias because of the way we put decks together, but decks that have a ton of artifacts, those artifacts are usually made by non-artifact sources. So like, it's not like your deck is 80% artifacts. Like your deck is not, it's like, I mean, this could be equipment, there could be mana rocks, but like like Pia and Kira and Nalar are not an artifact,
right?
But they make artifacts.
Yeah.
So that's the reason Inspiring Statuary is so good.
Yeah, and you get it's like a double hit, right? You get to cast them with Inspiring Statuary's improvise thing, but then also you're getting 2 mana back. You're not only getting 2 mana reduction, you're also getting 2 mana in the form of those Thopters. This is really great because this is an easy way to tap our creatures also. If the board's gummed up or something and we don't want to be attacking necessarily with all of our stuff, we can send in 1 Thopter or something like that, tap all of our Mirror or our ground artifact creatures with our Inspiring Statuary to cast some stuff. That gets them tapped for Alibou's ability. Also, I mean, and one of the things that we can get them all tapped for is, like I said, an X spell. No better than Saheeli's Directive to be doing that. X, red for the sorcery with improvise already tacked on there. Reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of artifact cards with CMC cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way that weren't into your graveyard. This card's incredible. Very strong card. Putting them in the graveyard is just added bonus, actually. But you're just going to be able to take all the artifacts from the top of your deck and throw them in there. If you already have a board of creatures, you're going to be able to get 3 to 6 artifacts out of this because you're going to cast this for a huge X number. But even in the early game, if you get a couple off of this, 1 or 2, you're going to be pretty happy with it. So Saheeli's Directive, strong card. At just about, again, this comes with improvise already on it, so it's actually good anywhere. You don't need to get the statuary out first. Another cool way to get your creatures tapped, kind of in the same vein as this. Sean, why don't you take these next 2 here?
Oh, we got a favorite of mine.
Yeah,
That's vehicles.
Yeah.
Vehicles. Improvise won't allow you to tap more artifacts than the spell has mana value,
right?
But you can overcrew a vehicle by as much as you want. So Conqueror's Galleon is a personal favorite. It's a 4 mana artifact that crews for 4. Bit of a hefty crew price. Not a lot of decks love it, but it's a 2/10 when you do, and when it attacks, exile it into combat and return it transformed into Conqueror's Foothold. It's a land that has 4 different activated abilities. The first one adds a colorless. The second one costs 2 and tap, draw a card, discard a card. Fine. The next one costs 4 and tap, just draw a card. 4 mana, draw a card. That's a very fair rate for a repeatable thing like a land. But also 6 and tap, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Regrowth on a land. Usable as many times as you want.
Yeah.
I love this card. I love getting it flipped, and I love just having it. Even if I hardly ever do the regrowth part.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Or even if you don't want to flip it. If you just want it to sit out there as the Galleon and crew it, turn it into a creature, just to tap all your creatures, and then just chill. right?
Yeah.
Because this, but if you do end up attacking with it, it is an artifact creature at that point that is also tapped for Alibou's ability.
Yeah. And since we're planning on over crewing, we can afford to put in a little bit heavier crew costs. So crew 6 comes on Colossal Plow. This was pretty famous from Kaldheim. It's a 2-mana artifact that turns into a 6/3 if you crew for 6 or over crew for 30.
Yeah.
Whenever Colossal Plow attacks, add white and gain 3 life. You don't lose that mana as steps end. So this is a very good artifact if you can have the means to crew it. I've yet to see it in a commander game, but I'm curious. I bet you this deck can, like, getting that extra mana is no joke.
No, it's not. And like for this thing to only cost 2, and then the crew to be the high cost on it, so the 6. Yeah, that's. I mean, ideally you'd rather it be the other way around, right? Like the crew is easy to do or something like that, But when we're in this kind of token deck where we've got creatures sitting around a lot, even our commander is, 4 power. So we're going to be able to crew up the Colossal Plow pretty easily, generate mana that way also. I mean, this card's cool. It's got a lot of application here in this deck, and like I said, really you're just kind of in there to tap your creatures. Like, you don't even really care if this thing attacks or not. But if you're in this space where you can make it happen, I say do it. Of course, we also have your Mana Rock one that you love, which I can't ever remember the name of.
Cultivator's Caravan.
Yeah, got a Cultivator's Caravan here too, obviously. Just works, just does double duty as a Mana Rock and as a vehicle in this deck. It's great. So we also, like, tapping is the name of the game. You could go, and we'll talk about it in Lost Cards, but for Alibou, Ancient Witness, like, you can just lean into the tapping part of things and just make this a wild deck. We've got just kind of this flavor just because it works. These are artifact vehicles. These are creatures when they attack. But we can do something like Gear per Aether Grid as well. 2 and a red for the enchantment that says tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, and it deals 1 damage to any target. We also have Clock of Omens, which is a 4-mana artifact that says tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, untap target artifact. So you can get really wild with that when it comes to, like, Mana Rocks, generating lots of mana with Clock of Omens, because we can tap our creatures to untap rocks and stuff like that. Like, it gets messy in a very, very good way. This is to say, obviously, this all works really well with Alibou, but it works doubly well, in a way, with Throne of the God Pharaoh.
Whoa.
The 2-mana legendary artifact that says at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. That's each opponent.
Wow.
On top of Alibou's trigger, on top of even maybe if we're attacking with these tokens, like, this Throne of the God Pharaoh ends up being one of the better cards of the deck because it ends games super quickly.
Jeez, you got like 6 or 7 Mir out there, some servos, and it's just like, okay, all my opponents take 11 pass turn.
Yeah, right?
It's like, wow.
And that's what that counts everything. And, like, this is something that can tap for Clock of Omens,
Right.
You can tap
Alibou can attack and do like another 10 to a player, so they end up taking 20 by the time your turn's over. Wow.
Yeah, it's wild. It's really, really good. This is a must include, I think, on any version of this deck. Absolutely. So that's kind of I think this is like almost, you can go deep down any one of these roads, or you can do what I've done here and we kind of have it all. But there's a fun little package in this deck that's going to get pretty wild. And this is where, honestly, the crew over on the Discord came in. And Sean, why don't you read this card? Because I think just reading this card, we're going to get a taste of what's to come.
It's 5 mana for a 3/3 artifact creature. Golem. It's Precursor Golem. And when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 3/3 colorless Golem artifact creature tokens. If you have this under the Mimic Vat, you can keep doing that.
Yep.
Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery that targets only a single golem, that player copies that spell for each other golem that spell could target. Each copy targets a different one. That's a complicated way to say that when you target a single golem, you're targeting all of the golems with copies of that spell.
And you make that many copies, yeah.
which is new in the world of Magecraft now that Magecraft watches for those copies even. So like that's a lot of triggers right there.
And again, like there is a Magecraft deck that absolutely utilizes Precursor Golem. Again, always check out those lost cards because that is a fun, we're going to talk about that. But
yeah,
in this deck, Precursor Golem, not only does it work so well with that Mirror March, the Flame Shadow Conjuring, like you said, Mimic that, works incredibly well with those things. Obviously, we're going to be able to tap these golems or attack with them, blah, 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 whatever. We've got, of course, the requisite you must have if you're going to include golems, Blade Splicer, the Master Splicer, the Sensor Splicer. All the splicers are here because they not only come with their own golems and, again, work well with the Mirror March, Flame Shadow Conjuring, all that. They buff the golems. They give them First Strike. They give them Vigilance. Vigilance, and they give them +1/+1. But take a look, Sean. Read the ones after the splicers and how they work.
Ooh, okay, Heat Shimmer, 2 and a red, sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature, except it has haste and at the beginning exile. So it's like the effective Flame Shadow Conjuring in a sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
And Twin Flame, 1 and a red, but it has Strive. You get to pay an additional 2 and a red for each target beyond the first. You're allowed to target more than one thing.
If we have Precursor Golem, we don't really need to worry about the Strive.
Don't need to.
Luckily.
It's just 1 and a red.
Yeah.
Choose any number of target creatures that you control. That's how the Strive works.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay for them. For each of them, put a token that's a copy, gains haste, exile at the beginning of next end step. So it's a cheaper... That's actually just strictly better than Heat Shimmer because it just costs 2 to do one thing.
It's just another copy of it, but cheaper.
But like you do that on a precursor on any golem while precursor golem's out, and you're getting like, first of all the main precursor golems make copies.
Yeah.
So they make 3 more golems, and your twin. Wow. That's too many golems.
You don't just double them, right? Like you double the number of golems, but then you add 2 more for the copy of the actual precursor golem that comes in. So you get double plus 2, essentially.
I think this deck is more likely to use give target creature double strike off of Boros Charm if you hit a golem.
Now we're seeing some of that. Now we're seeing some of that utility from those original cards that just seem like they're kind of staple Boros cards. But now you're right. Double strike is incredible with with that, and same thing with Rootborn Defenses. But also both of those cards, because Rootborn Defenses could make a copy of one of the twin flamed precursors to get even an additional 2 more. But they also protect the precursor golem, right? Because the worry with precursor golem is your opponent has a kill spell, right?
Yeah, and then they all die.
Now they're all dead. Well, Rootborn, Boros Charm, any of the other kind of things that give protection, things like that. They all do double duty of being able to stop the kill spell, or like give them double strike or something, or populate, or maybe even give them like some kind of protection from a color so that they can actually get through. So there's, as worried as you might be, and I was about Precursor Golem, you're gonna have enough cards in your deck where it's like, okay, don't worry. You make sure you have this going when Precursor Golem's out. But we still got even another step here, and that's something like Seize the Day. 3 and a red for the sorcery that says untap target creature. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. So, yeah, you target Precursor Golem with this, or any other golems again, and all of a sudden, that's a lot of extra combats. And who triggers off after combat? Our commander, Alibou Ancient Witness.
Wow, that's game.
That's game.
That's game.
Yeah, you're gonna win.
Wow.
So Seize the Day is an incredible card. Also has flashback, which is, I don't know why you would need the flashback. Maybe it got countered or something. Great. Guess what?
I don't know.
It's even cheaper from flashback. It's 2 and a red. Breath of Fury is another, like, not quite the exact same, but still, similar effect that we could do. This is an aura, so it's a little different. But even just 1 extra attack phase is actually totally fine if we're talking about the number of precursor golems we can actually make. And Sean, we have one more, just a little cherry on top of the, maybe is it Winmore? I don't know. I don't think so, because if we have a bunch of servos or thopters or things like that, and we just cast precursor golem, well, that's still only 3 golems, but not if we have this card.
Maskwood Nexus, 4 mana for an artifact. Creatures you control are every creature type, including Golem. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature spells you own that aren't on the battlefield. Creatures you control are every... also true for spells, which means the stack is covered, your library is covered, your graveyard's covered, exile's covered. It also has 3 tap, create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. It is every creature type. So obviously that makes everything Golem with Precursor Golem, but I noticed you've also included Mere Battlesphere here.
I just threw this one in because,
You got, great with Alibou in general,
Yeah.
but 7 mana for a artifact creature Mere Construct, which is now also a Golem. So it's a 4/7. When it enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless Mere artifact creature tokens, and whenever it attacks, you may tap X untapped Mere you control. With Maskwood Nexus, everything's a Mere as well as a Golem, so you can tap everything and give Mere Battlesphere plus X plus O, and it deals X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. Alibou's trigger goes on, and all those tapped things do damage to that same player. And if you still need to, Throne of God Pharaoh's going to do a bunch more. But I don't. Right. I think this is the capper. Like this is your game-winning play.
Yeah, absolutely. Maskwood Nexus is, like I said, just the cherry on top. But any combination of these things works pretty well. I mean, Mere Battlesphere, again, if you don't have any of the golems, works fine with Maskwood Nexus. Works fine in general in the deck because we have a bunch of things that make Mere. So, this deck can get pretty hairy pretty quickly. We want to get a couple of the tokens down first, but past that, you're good to go. Any of these key cards, if they pop up, you're gonna be laughing. This deck gets pretty wild. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play.
I believe it.
Again, because we're not just relying on attacking. You can not attack with this deck too, which is one thing I love about it. We have ways to tap our creatures where we can just send in one guy and same effect, right? So that's a lot of fun. Like I said, big shout outs to Discord here. If you're not in our Discord yet, if you're not a patron of the show, which is how you get into the Discord, consider it, because this is where these deck tech ideas are coming from a lot of the time. We know what we want to do going in, and then the crew over there just brings an extra level to it. So we got to thank Micah, Eternity's Crafter, Chiefy, Lolwat, Pips Don't Lie, Ninja Mir of Pirate Town, I believe is what that person's name is, which was perfect for this one because we need Mir. Dylan PH, Dino Pirate, Beauregardin, Beppo, T Coates, Groove Chicken, Mr. Big Bants, all in there, just serving up killer ideas. And check out Lost Cards, because we're going to dive even deeper on some of these angles with Alibou Ancient Witness. But we've thanked the Discord crew, so it looks like it is now time for a budget report. All right, so this one's coming in at, I think, a pretty good budget. Again, we always say it, but the mid on TCG is a little weird. Said it's 123 mid, the low is 53. Testing in some other places, you can find it for cheaper. You can find it for around $100. Speaking of being able to find it for even cheaper, there's no real super expensive card in this deck. We've got a couple $6 to $8-ish cards. Each of them being Combat Celebrant, which is the exert creature that gives you extra attacks. It's not the best extra attack thing, but it's one of the cheaper ones, so we run it for that reason. We also have Ancient Stone Idol, which is the 10 mana 12/12 flash. It's a golem. It costs 1 less for each attacking creature, so if we have a bunch of tokens, this can be great. It can also surprise a big attack coming at you. Sometimes it has trample, and when it dies, you make a 6/2 token. It's good. It has all the stuff that we want, but I didn't know this card was this expensive, and I don't think we have to include this. This is definitely one I'd be looking to cut, because it's almost $7, I think, something like that. So
yeah,
it's a fine card, but we don't need it. And then Throne of the God Pharaoh. I mean, I think this one is the one. If I were to pick one of these, this is the one I would include. we talked about it. It just works so well with the deck. It's a little redundancy from the commander, so that's nice.
Shocked that it's over $6.
I am too. Like, you expect it for Combat Celebrant, and like I wasn't surprised to see Throne of the God Pharaoh that expensive, but Ancient Stone Idol, I definitely was.
I guess for 2 mana, having the ability to do like 10 damage to the table per turn, that's worth a few bucks.
And like Throne of the God Pharaoh works in any token deck, so like it's it goes in a lot of decks because it's colorless. There are 2 main actually like pretty expensive cards that I would have wanted to include, but we didn't for budget reasons. But if you have them kicking around, feel free to toss them into the deck. Sean, why don't you take these?
Mycosynth Golem, another Golem. It's an 11 mana 4/5, but it's got affinity for artifacts, so it's 1 cheaper for each artifact you control. But it also gives future artifact creatures spells you play affinity for artifacts. So, I mean, this is probably a $20 card because it makes for artifact storm decks so easy. Like, you could just spew out your whole hand for almost nothing. It can bring artifacts down to 0 cost.
Mm-hmm. Artifact creatures,
which is amazing.
Only, at least
artifact creatures. I see. Okay. Still very good.
I don't know why it's expensive. I don't know what decks it's in. Maybe there's I know it's not in the like affinity deck, but maybe something else is using it. Maybe it is in a weird version of that. Who knows? But it's like $20, so yeah, I wouldn't seek it out. It is pretty good, but I wouldn't seek it out. And then of course, this big one.
Oh, Anointed Procession is up to $45 to $50.
Yep.
USD. In Canada, way more.
Forget it. This card's incredible. The 3 and a white, it doubles the tokens, right? I mean, I knew this was going to get expensive, but I don't think I would have ever thought it was going to get this expensive. I was equally surprised to find that Parallel Lives was this much when it hit $45. Mm-hmm. I was just as surprised, when I made these notes that this is how much this card is. This is the type of stuff I think they should reprint in Commander product, so that it does go back down to, for example, when this set came out, this card was $6, and then it got up to something like 12 when it was actually seeing play in some standard decks. But other than that, like, it wasn't that expensive. So, you start reprinting cards like this, and the price drops pretty quickly, I think.
Wizards, please.
But yeah, so, if you have some Anointed Processions from when you were playing in Amoket, throw them in the deck. They're great. But that's it.
Don't throw them in. Throw 1 in.
Oh, yes. Certainly
it's
only throw 1.
To throw them
Please
in.
do abide by the rules of Commander and only include 1 of any given card outside of basic lands. Thank you. But yeah, there we go. That's the whole deck. A lot of fun here to be had, I think, with this one. And I hope anyone who builds this Commander out of this pre-con, do it, because it's fun, and it's not, again, I think it's like a slightly different take on Boros. They're giving Boros more and more fun tools, so use them. Anyways, that's it. We will check out Lost Cards coming out, of course, after this. But that's it. We'll be back next week with a new deck. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCG Player affiliate link below.
That helps us out too, and for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or 2.
See you later.
Bye.